So hello, everybody. My name is Deanna Fong, and I'm the literary editor of the Capilano Review. I'm delighted to be in your company again, dear friends. And tonight, possibly more than any other night, I'm acutely aware of Roy Kyoka's imprint on this series, which you yourselves may feel over the course of tonight's readings. His spirit of conviviality, his cohort of beloveds, and the wide map of his heart's geography, this latter term, a wave to those of you who are joining us remotely by live stream. Hi. We're gathered here tonight on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, nations who have been living, creating, and gathering in community on this land since time immemorial. In opening our events with these acknowledgements, we want to question the ways that we materially take on the work of decolonization in arts and literary publishing. In a forthcoming interview with Shimian scholar and activist Dr. Robin Gray on rematriation and place naming, TCR Associate Editor Susan Blight reminds us that in a decolonial context, any act of representation should also pose, quote, a significant question about ownership, jurisdiction, and sovereignty, end quote. In our work dealing with the cultural context of representation, writing, naming, and depicting in the arts, we endeavor to keep these significant material questions at the fore. The Capilano Review is a 52-year-old nonprofit literary and visual arts journal based in Vancouver, originally founded by artist Pierre Coupé at Capilano College in 1972 and independent since 2015. The review is dedicated to experimentation across genres, media, boundaries, and forms, with particular emphasis on promoting dialogue between the literary and visual arts. Alongside our publishing program, we also partner with other organizations in the city, like the Western Front, to offer a variety of year-round public programs, including this monthly reading series, an annual writer-in-residence program, numerous writing contests, workshops, and educational initiatives. All this being said, our work as a community-driven nonprofit continues to be precarious, and we rely more and more every year on the generous support of our donors and subscribers. So if you appreciate the work that we do, both on and off the page, we invite you to consider extending your support for the Capilano Review before you leave this evening, either by purchasing a $35 print subscription to our beautiful magazine, or by making a direct donation to become a friend of TCR. Our arts editor, Jacqueline, will be happy to chat with you or assist you at our book table beside the bar. And of course, if you're not able to contribute in these ways, we would still appreciate it if you would consider sharing the magazine with your family and friends, or bringing them along to one of these readings. We still have 2 more this year. Tonight, we're delighted to introduce the work by resident artist Jonathan Alfaro, who's here with us tonight. Jonathan has produced a new series of monotype prints entitled Daylight Lover, especially for this program, inspired by the imagined flourishes that might be found in the margins of love letters. The work from this series on view tonight is titled Avocado Stones. Thank you, Jonathan, for bringing your work into this reading space, and we look forward to the series' continued unfolding over the remaining 2 events. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to the Western Front for being such generous and supportive partners on this series, now for 2 seasons, and in particular Susan Gibb and Keel Torres, who organized the series with myself and art editor Jacqueline Zongli Ross, technical manager Ben Wilson, videographer Quilly Wu, and NK Photo. I'd also like to thank our managing editor, Catherine Gear Chambers, and finally, the BC Arts Council for its generous support of our out-of-town authors. And some quick housekeeping before we get on with the evening. Each of our 3 readers tonight will be presenting for about 20 minutes with no intermission. There are 2 all-gender washrooms located downstairs in the foyer and 1 up here on this floor. We acknowledge that this physical space is not currently wheelchair accessible, so to everyone currently attending by live stream, thank you for being patient with us while we continue to work through all the necessary steps to make a large-scale upgrade to this historic building a reality. And so with that, I will introduce our first reader for tonight. Our first reader is one of the giantesses of the Vancouver scene, so named by Lisa Robertson and Katrina Strang in a 1992 issue of Front magazine. I first met Rhoda Rosenfeld in the early spring of 2017, when I quote-unquote interviewed her, Maxine Gadd, and Trudy Rubenfeld, though I was just as much the interviewee as I was the interviewer in that conversation. What struck me about Rhoda was the way that she makes conversation happen around her, as much through her incisive sense of observation and sometimes gentle yet firm refusal, as through her generous, curious, expansive listening. There's something of this essence in her writing as well, the ways in which spaces and silences welcome us into conversation, and the ways that forms, voices, nouns, elements, and images all vibrate together in dissonance and dialogue. Rhoda Rosenfeld is a visual artist and poet born in Tiohtià:ke, Muniang, Montreal, Canada, and based on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations in Vancouver, Canada. Her work attends to perception, consciousness, behavior, transformation, chance, and the indivisible. Here's Rhoda.
Thank you so much, Deanna. And thank you, everybody, for being here, and also everybody who's watching at home. Thanks to the Western Front, everyone has greeted us so warmly. And it's a lot of fun being here and seeing old friends. It's been a long time since I've been in this room, but there were many, many events that I did attend here, and I'm so grateful to all the artists, all the writers and performers and visual artists who did what they did here. I just think we're so lucky to have all this culture. So thank you all. My work here is the second part of a piece called Zettel, which means notes in German and Yiddish. And my work is fragmentary. I like to think of them, I like to call them sutra, sort of aphorisms and little bits of thought and knowledge. And in this particular piece, little bits that I call shorter stories, some of them memoir, which is new for me. So this is the second half of that piece. I heard a knock on my back door last night. It was a gang of spirits demanding to have a party. October 20th, 2020. Oh, what I wanted to say was the word suture comes from sutra. And I think when reading or listening, we're sewing the pieces together. I heard a knock on my back door last night. It was a gang of spirits demanding to have a party. October 20th, 2020. Day, stay. Fine dust, little rhythms, stride piano and slide guitar. Ethel Wilson, Sheila Watson, and their Fisher women. By honoring her, she who said, "Big wash," when I was out hanging a pair of socks on the clothesline. Nothing explains fate. Will you sit? Drawing is writing with a D. Kyoka notoriously resists the nouning of identity. Tavleen Puraval. His sculptures were maquettes for large scale. He told me so. Sunlight on river stones. I'm planning my getaway. It's those walls, they hold us all. The perforated location includes a 3-point perspective grid or a corner into which the subject has painted myself with silver nitrate and gum arabic. The light recording properties of silver salts, its uncomplaining susceptibility to accident. Virginia Woolf, what damage the art of photography has inflicted upon the art of literature has yet to be reckoned. Dances with words. The distance from point to point in stereo image is 61 millimeters. Meanwhile, near the corner of McCall and Dundas, a dance is set inside some DJL light bulbs. The audience hears the vibratory molecules all the way to Lac des Sables. Some are clip-offs. Or a walk for those two people still on stilts. Precariously, one begins from Queen and Spadina, the other from Queen and Church. But that hour did not come till 33 years later. Mapped for yttrium, the chemical element yttrium of atomic number 39. A grayish-white metal generally included among the rare earth elements. Elsewhere, their words don't coincide with what they say, so there's aggrievement over a few characteristics and contingencies. Attar. War power and failure of Congress to override the veto, so that speculation still in Saigon. That was then. Talks earlier this month. Extra security forces when students protesting surprise Israeli attacks on Lebanon. That was then. No sign of a slowdown of a Soviet buildup in Europe. Then. When now, the only currency, when now new variants of concern and direct circumambulations and fear in advance either. Like when the sweet birds sing, sedently. She drops a bomb and then she leaves for the blockade chain called Kimia, art of transmuting metals. But if you're really looking for them, they're situated under a chokecherry tree and appear to be listening to a very sorry horn. When the photophonics were Quebec, and Anti-Eva, the lion-hearted. One of my mothers wanted something because she understood, like one of my other mothers, that I was an artist. What she wanted was the painting, the one my friend suggested I take to her father. I took him to, but he didn't want. Not he, but another near him scoffed. What is that, a bruise? What is that, a bruise? Dostoevsky. After all, an insult is purification. It is the most caustic and painful form of consciousness. Here we add a few more hertz. That's HZ. When we had the fire, I was 8. You were 9 months old. It was in the icy dead of March. Arlene and I were in the middle of a piano lesson with Mr. Kuczynski. Ma always tells how slowly he put his galoshes on while black smoke billowed out from under the pantry door. Unless I told them with my own eyes. Sometimes my father used snake skin and alligator skin. But I can't find my staple gun or my sight again. Please Send me a piece of cedar. Death is not black, it's blue, and it takes my breath away. Meanwhile, I must have been flying under the radar with Oscar Peterson and Charlie Biddle over the beach at Okinawa when an eagle and two seagulls show up high above Hawks Avenue, inside a gray iris with a yellow and pink circumference around the pupil of the sun. Such is significance, or a circumzenithal arc whose hesitation is not lost for nothing on the jittery wind. Hemp Hill, Temple Bell, Broomfield. Nice day, eh? Beautiful little day. Eric Dolphy's on Green Dolphin Street with sweet potatoes and beet leaves. So this is obloquy. That ragged edge is not subconscious. It's the ecstasy of frenzy caused by desire of the unattainable on the horns of a dilemma, though not quite so neuromorphic. Not to mention the yellow cab at the curb, in the rain on the drive, and as God is my spectacular, someone shows up. Willie Dunn. Inuit. The day of the Cuban Missile Crisis, I became an artist to myself. 1961. I was deeply agitated. I was a student at McGill. I spent most of my time at the library. That day, I walked upstairs to the Fine Arts Library on the second floor. I was there illegitimately, with my heart beating, with only the inner voice of microfrequencies returning space to water and God to theory to speak with. I went to the shelves. I found Goya. Listening to the pickles ferment. We call and we call upon the government of Canada. We call in the name of every tetragrammaton. I love the words, 6 nations of the Grand River. What's buried beneath the car park? The emergence of metallurgy may have occurred first in the Fertile Crescent. The earliest use of lead from the late Neolithic settlement of Yarim Tepe in Iraq. Finds of pure silver at Ur. The mountains of Armenia. In the Caucasus, alluvial deposits were worked by washing over a layer of fleeces. The gold particles would adhere to the grease in the wool, hence the basis of the legend of the Golden Fleece. There being a fire in the middle of the road outside our door, just like in Derzu Uzala. Summer freshet. A damselfly landed in my blue gouache. I lifted it out on the back of a brush and then used the wet tip of another brush to wash its wings of the paint. It flew away and then came back and bit my lip. The day goes down, rebuffed. Je suis dans les patates. Merci, Hélène. A proposal. Put the metal you extracted back into the ground. Call it intraction. The river water is overwrought. There was once a blind woman who through a near-death experience was able to see spherically, spherical vision. The 6 doors of perception, that's what I've been trying to tell you. The phenomenal display of life. I watch a single isolated photon hang in the air. Have we represented ourselves out of existence? Mugworts, a herbal onerogen. Surely all this. Something about breaking into the attic of fulfillment. Julian Barnes. Margaret Avison adapted into English from Hungarian, from the literal translations of Ilona Duchinska, a poem called Farm at Dark on the Great Plain by Ferenc Juhas. Thoughts of Béla Tarr. Look out in the day, look in the night, and listen. Poetry is not communication. It's a form of intimacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhoda, and so wonderful to be woven into all of that. The work of our next reader, Tina Do, came to us by way of our open call for submissions. Her poems that appear in the forthcoming Real Materials issue, which will be here any day now, indeed helped us to distill our aspirations for the theme of this issue. Through their finely grained attunement to the senses, to memory and its lopsided attention, to the indelible impact of words and phrases. Indeed, notions of proximity, focus, and framing became central to our curatorial process, and we're indebted to Tina for the ways that her writing brought these ideas to the fore. Tina Do is a poet based on the unceded traditional ancestral territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, kwi-kwəǳlʌm, and Musqueam nations of Vancouver, Canada. Her poetry, which delves into themes of introspection, love, relationships, reflects on oft-inconsequential minutiae of life, grapples with questions such as, what does it mean to love the people and places around us? You can find her work in the tÄmz Review, Best Canadian Poetry, Canadian Literature, Room Magazine, and Canthius. Here is Tina.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, got thumbs, okay. Thank you to everyone for coming out. As a shut-in myself, I know it's sometimes hard to leave the house, especially when it's hot outside. So I'm really grateful for all my friends and family that are here, for all the strangers or not yet strangers that are sharing the space with me. I'm also super grateful to be sharing this space with incredible artists like Jonathan and Rhoda and Gerry. I'm so excited and also honored, but also really nervous because this is my first reading. So thank you. So yeah, I hope this goes okay. If not, you will never see me again. So in the spirit of dear friends, and the poems I'm reading tonight are from a series I'm calling the After Poems. So they're poems written in response to other poems that I've read that have touched me as a reader. They're also pieces sort of written after events or things in my life. So interactions, material things, endings of friendships or relationships, or, your neighbors stealing your packages, because that's a thing that happens. So my first poem is called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Things My Mother Hates. Okay. When I grow up, I want to be a list of things my mother hates after Chen Chen. A 2 a.m. shower and sleeping with wet hair. The party girl out late with friends and home after dawn. The drunk call home, the loud entrance, the clatter of keys on the kitchen table. The small blueberries only Dad will eat. The last glob of rice in the bowl. Unwashed rice. The burnt rice I kept making that week she left me in charge. The unreliable one. The unpredictable rainstorm, all thunder and lightning and dark skies in maelstrom. The selfish one. The one she didn't raise me to be. A hurricane, the eye of the storm, full catastrophe, damage measured on the Fujita scale. The witty retort when she says, you are never going to find someone to love you like this. Not like that, not in that way. The lonely hour, the impossible grass stain to remove after rolling around in the dirt, mud tracks on white tile floors. The expensive night out, the questionable purchase, the shoes thrown away before the tread wears out. Far from everything that is close to here. Somebody, anybody, somebody's buddy to call home. The tidal wave, the darkness, the crow at dusk calling not here, not here, not here. Text I never sent because I was busy overthinking. After Benny Xiao. I want to kill my coworker before the stress of her kills me. If I die tomorrow, it was her fault. At the scene of the crime, you'll find the stupid reading glasses that she needs but never wears. I'm running away. I'll send you postcards with cryptic coded messages to let you know what being not here is like. I didn't finish the Titanic in order to pretend that everyone lives, even Fabrizio. The boat doesn't sink and Tommy doesn't get shot and the door is big enough to float 2 people. It was. Mythbusters did an episode on it. And really, Jack was being just a little stupid because sure, it might be beautiful to love someone enough to die, but I think it's much harder to love someone enough to live. I'm scared to be alone forever. Some days I imagine someone who laughs when I get angry at bad movies and gets rid of spiders for me when they scurry across the floor. In some universe, there is someone who enables my bike short addiction and doesn't mind that I'm overly attached to my air fryer. But everyone I know leaves and leaves and leaves, and the spiders just live and live and live. And it's arachnophobia or 8-legged freaks all over again. And Mom let me watch those movies way too early. And I probably still need therapy. And I don't know what it means when it's easier to imagine myself dead than in love. Conversations with Dad after my dear friend Natalie Lim. I hit a car today and didn't know how to say that I don't think I can love someone else because sometimes I forget to hit the brakes in time, to let myself slow to a stop at a red light. What if I like being alone too much to let someone else in? What if I only know how to hold someone the way a seatbelt grips a body? Tight and unrelenting, harsh and uncomfortable. What if I forget to eat until you hold out a bowl of rice? What if I don't know how to say thank you? What if I write and all that comes out is grief or an earthquake, some terrible shattered thing? What if I am grief or an earthquake and a terrible shattered thing? What if I forget to hold your hand to cross the street? What if your knees still ache in the morning? What if I'm still spinning and the wheel is stuck and the brakes aren't working and there's broken glass and I am the earthquake? What if I leave and forget to ask if you've eaten yet? What if you forget to eat? What if you forget to eat? Tomorrow is a conversation I never have. The house across from ours has the same address and won't stop stealing our packages. I knock on their door and show them the picture the postman uploaded for a textbook that I never read, for a class I maybe regret taking. We don't have a white fence since our landlord doesn't think it will deter robbers. But one summer, she told the whole block we were going on vacation, and someone stole the car right from the driveway. You said the license plate was in the glove box of the stolen car. Our car is found a week later, 3 blocks away on Shaughnessy Street, the stereo ripped out and your favorite power drill missing from the trunk. You said not to replace it for Christmas that year because saving my money was better. So I don't tell you I spent it on people who may not love me. Mom stalks across the street when I tell her my book is missing. After she gets it back, she starts a feud with them, rakes an overwhelmingly large pile of leaves onto their parking spot in the fall, and shovels snow on top of the pile in the winter. But she spends so long outside, she gives herself ice burn. You rub Yao-san into her aching knees and tell me it's best not to pick fights when you can avoid them. Google tells me Hanoi is 10,818 kilometers from Vancouver. I don't ask if you ever want to go back, or if you miss your sisters, or if you regret marrying Mom. When the bank asks me to set up your security questions, I write Hanoi as your birthplace, like I'm the one who knows what it means to leave everything, to treat videos on YouTube like snapshots of a life you can't return to. The Yao-san I order for you is stolen across the street. Tomorrow, I'll go to that house to ask for it. Tomorrow, I'll come back with something that's ours. My leg is cramping, I'm sorry. Okay, back in a minute after Jane Shi. Hey, Kels, it's been a minute. 4 years can count as a minute, right? I was wondering if you still wanted to go to the beach with me. Last night, as I was standing in the shower and looking up at the ceiling, my face started to grow baleen, remembering the taste of the ocean. And suddenly, I'm sitting on your scratchy couch again, watching that documentary about whales eating that pizza with olives and barbecue sauce you liked from Domino's because you hated pineapples. Do you still hate pineapples? Wait, I'm screwing this up. What I mean is that people once thought the coelacanth died out with the dinosaurs, and the sunfish can lay up to 300 million eggs at once, and the narwhal's tusk is actually a tooth. And whales grieve, and I grieve, and you probably don't want to hear that. And I still can't use metaphors. I mean, I still don't know how to swim, but I'd learn if you wanted. In 2018, more than 150 whales became stranded on an Australian beach, and hundreds of people tried to save them. The last mass stranding of whales in Australia happened in 1996, involving 320 long-finned pilot whales. Sorry, I'm probably annoying you again. I meant to say that it's okay if you don't remember anything. If you don't care for swimming anymore, or the way I breathe through my mouth and not my nose, or that I crawled through tide pools last week in search of a hymn to sing to the God in the ocean. That's okay. I won't mind. I won't try and find someone else to replace you. I've held this song for so long that I've forgotten to come back up for air. Maybe the reason we never made it off the beach is because it's a lot scarier to swim alone than it is to hold the body of grief above your head and wait to sink. It's that way for everything, right? Beached whales suffer the greatest of pains when their bellies kiss the land in some hollow repetition of a memory never made. The solid surface causes their chests to collapse, their organs to compress. It's 3:27 a.m. and I'm still staring up at the ceiling. I think you still live on that house on Trutch and 14th with the bench on the porch that has the slightly wide panels. I maybe drove by it last week or last year or a minute ago. I wish we could go to the beach and lie on the sand collecting sunburns and seashells like we did that one summer. This time I'll even go into the water. Maybe we can hold a song in our fingers and pretend our bodies are a prayer to the ocean or some God whose many arms hold us up, weightless enough to breach the waves and come back up. We'll be swimming for a long time, won't we? On praying after Hugh Min Nguyen. All my life, I've watched my mother contemplate an entrance, hovering between a conversation and a doorway, her sleep fitful and uncertain. I imagine in her dreams, her smile stretches wide and tall enough to reach the sky. I feel most like her daughter when I am drowning, dragged by her under a tidal gathering of people I loved then stopped loving. In our near past, my mother unwraps relics she brought from Vietnam and hands me the small jade figurine of a god I never learned to pray to. I throw it in the kitchen sink, watch its weight shatter the mountain of dishes, and settle alongside the cilantro I spit out of my rice. I cannot stand the taste of it, which is a cowardly way of saying, I do not know how to make my body remember I have been loved my whole life. If faith is what anchors us to the living, then most days Mother and I are treading water, held together by a threadbare shirt she can never bring herself to throw away. All my life, I've gnawed at the frayed tethers of her hope. The water only knows how to swallow my prayers. When she is gone, who will clench my name between their teeth? I've tried my hardest to build the sound of the Pacific in her mouth, press her cheeks together, drag her jaw to shoreline, rub sea salt on her lips. The salmon are plentiful beneath her tongue, and I hold her body still so she can feel the water crash against her teeth, taste the violence, the yearning, the unbearable belief while algal blooms run softly on the surface of the water. I imagine our bodies meeting in the same way, but some small God in my small head tells me, little one, you are not needed. And the voice is loud and tempting, and all my little loves are buoyant with joy, and my body feels heavy at the surface. And sometimes I want to stop treading, and today is indescribably scary. So I want to be anywhere by the water. I don't know what I want. I feel furthest away from Mother when I think of faith as a destination, the cream-colored house across the way with the rust-red roof and the metal gate that closes so no one can steal our mail. Mother prays, and I tell her I do the same. I guess by praying, I'm saying, one day I want to eat cilantro like it belongs in my body. One day I'll hold a God between my fingers and feel the full weight of a tender love I can't figure out how to name. In this present, Mother stands at the kitchen sink, holding a dirty dish in each hand while I hold metaphors in mine. Tomorrow, I learn to pray to a God I might not believe in, hover between a conversation and a doorway. I stare at the door and swallow it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina. I dare say there will be other poetry readings. Yeah, I'm sure. That was wonderful. Okay, our final reader tonight, Gerry Shikatani, is a writer whose work has been hugely impactful on me as a reader and a lover of poetry, for the way that it deals in a kind of overall concreteness of sound, of visuality, of language, of image, and of place, with absolute reverence for and delight in each of these elements in their unrepeatable specificity. Gerry's had a long relationship with the Capilano Review, publishing Three Gardens of Andalusia, the first book, in a triptych project: mortar, rake, glove, sausan, broom, basin, sansui, as a special double issue of the review in 2003, way back when. Most recently, he published a selection of poems from Niwa, the second book in that series, in our spring 2023 issue titled It Is What It Is. Gerry Shikatani is a writer based in Toronto, Canada. Since 1970, his works have ranged from the textual, visual, oral performance to experimental film. He's the co-editor of the seminal anthology of Japanese-Canadian poetry Paper Doors, and has created documentaries and commentaries for CBC Radio, and published articles on travel, sports, and gastronomy across Canada and abroad. An international dining critic and a commentator and expert on all things Spanish, Shikatani is the founding director of a writer's retreat in Granada, Spain, honoring Federico Garcia Lorca. He holds Spain's official cross in the Order of Civilian Merit granted by the King of Spain. Here's Gerry.
From Niwa, in the gardens, Japan. Sento Gosho. I must stand, the purple irises clumped to the water's edge. I must stand, the flowers of greengrocers always, those for the dead, the packet of crystals to prolong life, the Sunday returns to home. To pick, to choose such blooms, find a vase. That they stand bristle, upright, oto-san, oka-san, mom and pop. Respectfully, I must stand, the tall irises, pawn's fine edge. Number 11, text 11. Twined to the post to post, what's this life? Cordwood, good piss. To not taught by knots. Bamboo arch from curve to curve, moon's crescent a bridge of stone or wisteria. From Ryoanji Temple, in Kyoto, text 12. A text to cross-hatch a line, the test of strength of paucity, empty basket. Text 13. Cross-hatched, Birth the suppleness of bamboo, the tie to strengthen no duplicity, lotus wet, intermittent rain, leaves brushed raindrops to shoulders suddenly. Text 33. Barely tipped butt. Number 34. Barely tipped butt. Camellia. Barely tipped butt. Azalea. 35. Barely butt. Number 59. It is here on this sweep of fine white sand, death intercedes, the trail of Shigaken ash lifts. Moss, heavy hoisted rock, pink June azaleas, held this flat stone to traverse over water. Number 107. These gardens built into and upon the mountains, fenced with tied bamboo, log, the rocks which lead down, across, and to points of view, azaleas, hydrangeas cultivated for centuries. Through such gardens do we realize or see in dappled light the natural, the growth of things that changes from hot June sun to heavy rain. Let us smell with more intensity the sense of new pine shoots after rain, see how trees bend and sway through seasonal growth, provide the chance to views, mountains, and wordless with our loved companions, or mourn deeply like a millionaire, the treasure of solitude. 125. Let me take you out on the boat across the sands. The salt, stories sedimented to the thirst transformed by sweet peaks. Let me take you out on the skiff, navigating around the reflections in puddles of trees, the bodaiji, the lives floating past, fallen from trees. I warn you, I am only a romantic, a novice boatsman at best. Pay me a dime if you like. Number 127. In the sea of white gravel, koi still come, puckering open mouths as overhead in the bodaiji, singing birds are shot everywhere, fall bloodied to ground, and young infants in town are gutted, readied for market. A text titled Journal from Roy's, or simply at Roy's, mentioning Roy Kiyoka. And this pear, the adjectival pear, ripe fruit and shrivel, in fact, presides the window's sill. Still. 2. Set back right, upright, the mattress slept upon, assert its lean against the wall at Roy's, pack up and leaving, to put mattress back as found, and to fold sheets, pillowcases, blankets, a passage pile, a paragraph's period to this point is the resting on the floor, infinitive to comma, soma, stay. Coat hangers buried in their sway, the closet doors accordion folding. Fold back, back. The curtains pulled wide to the back gardens. Kiefer Street, Chinatown. The bamboo trees lean their poles and leafy shades over this out front garden path. Kiefer Street, Chinatown, Chinatown. She always enters, a paper folded in your pocket. Mother, who'd given addresses where she'd lived as a BC girl, scribbled onto scrap paper, Powell Street across from Powell Ground. Now it's called Oppenheimer Park. You'll later report this fact to her. 2 addresses, rebuilt place, the so gone is. Early sun, the change to days overcast. Mug of coffee in these hands. Only this Powell Street autumn morning outside the still Vancouver, little Tokyo once morning. Only her new plumbered heart, which saved her life, what angina becomes as pain and clog in Toronto. Though these buildings on Powell Street utter again and again, a residence and new plumbing in the home. Old mug in the mirror, in same face, same mirror, in infinite, definitive. Oh Lordy, oh Lordly. That Roy's place, home. That Roy who come from birth in Moose Jaw, Sask, to Calgary, to hear where here it's cup after cup of coffee poured from the yellow enamel pot. Slender spout it says, pour, you catch the drips, at simmer coil, the autumnal yellow electric stove. As he says, cup of coffee, the hard laughing, at the thick, lovely wood table, his beard shaking up and down, that graced the breath, wrapped head, bandana life, rapture, spelling the doubleness of, so mister, this is the body electric. This place, the key to turn open the organ valves wide where it's custom to remove your shoes, leave the street world's music behind. The path of leaf-strewn dissonant wind and reed to green, tread anew with old feet, always new ground, made askance dance the grasp the floor. Tributaries of eye to eye and beard, Roy's, lean old sinewy muscles. Or then, chart the construction and reconstruction walls, mothers, timbers flowing into the unmapped skids of a loved heart's chamber. What direction to take in a claim of love, undefinable, definitives, infinite. You're back where you are, son. And arteries and surgery to your mother's, the rewiring of 1986, or was it 87? You wrote that previous paragraph? And caught on the tributary it's, now 6 years later, touch the edits, following the original construction, Roy's surgery, now you've caught up with him. Hardening of the arteries, he says, leg to leg, the blood runs, limps, limpidity. Rest is happenstance. Roy, it turns out, had been up north in Yellowknife. He, a kid art school, Calgary kid working under your Uncle Tak's thumb, Nihonjin, who could have passed to look at him, face and skin, for at least half Hakujin. Oh, Uncle Tak, who's the one in your eyes now who approaches, our arms dangling out front of him, becomes age, who fades off to sleep, image of sockeye and dog salmon catching beneath his gentle lids. His hands. Look at his hands, says Cousin Pat. His daughter looking for traces that quivering as he nods off. A question. Parkinson's? That image of the curled grammar, interrogatives, reversal, inflection to affection, in stirring asleep. Be gentle, sleep. And this image still standing years later at TAC and the rest outside, Roy's outside the car, dropping you off after the customary Nikkei Fisto at Chinese food, and he's upright as an old mattress, hands and arms shaking. This your father's last left brother, a younger to add to the voice your own body's will to speak. Inscribed the resuscitate history of, last left of the BC fishing river, now TAC 2 gone. Note, and how many years does a narrative make to the take spire of iki, of spirit, of paragraph, to paraphrase, crisscross, crosshatch, a rewiring of old texts and buzz of short circuit and Long Beach beating steady Perot, shirt tail hanging out the wind, maybe to get a grasp on. Tsunami, the peacock's tail. How many voices inflected a storyteller? Such shibai, such acting, nostalgic presence, a Japanese catheter to the current way to speak, like, do you know the current modern Japanese, or a pre-war regional tongue? Voice outside enclosure. Tak looks like a Jin. Roy, a kid, eating the chow, skinny kid under burly Tak's young man thumb. So string the nets from mouth to mouth, from Uncle Tak to Roy, to Aunt Atsuko, Patsy, and Dennis to Mother, and see them jumping the red spring mouth to mouth. You pat them coarse salt to belly, to silver black skin, bloodlet, your taste, your this mouth, river mouth, wrap in thick newspapers, and always the piling, fold. Fold into this bed of words and see the crusty coming, fat belly bursting, saline baked, hot 500-degree oven from mouth to mouth. Nihonjin no aji, the flavor, so bloody, so fucking good between the lines. The catch net of sibilant speech, scrape the pan. And to tell Roy, hey, Father used to stick out his pinky when he drank tea. Oh, so Victoria, it is monarch English, a measure of twixt thumb and pinky a work. He spoke with his rough fisherman's hands, and he, the government accused, couldn't be trusted, should lose his gas boat, lost lace of. His fingers, the palm gloved on the wet pools of his net. And what is workers writing, dog, ma, dog salmon, which current to take, death by spawn, life goes on. Oh, swim deep in this taste of hard, crusty salmon roe. Explode the rich salt oil, oh Suzuko, the roll across the wash of tongue, oil slick over saline, profound league, sink, the tether, swim, sewn, sawn, seeing, sewn, see, saw, see, seem, seems to put to a tributary map, a might be the grid. Like and as, and when it's all means or seems to mean, numerical shifters to find where and what you are, the net, the web of feeling. When you're like this, the mix of sweet and salt water, the best tasty salmon from this entry, this exit of waters. You're in the flow, but damn, out to sea, out to lunch, lost, boy. And into trace of abalone no beans met, the logarithmic jewels one after other on the wet breaking horizon line. Hibiku, water on the twines, rolling in tine and times, the green twine to wrap fish, bundles into the future. The generations of lingering oven aromas wrap around my mother's soft, gentle waist, the words of parcel, black marker, a heavenly intentioned with an address from home to home, here, the way with heart, parcels arrive home, future, there is always the present to joyous coming eschaton. Pilings, 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 pilings. Boardwalk, 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 boardwalk. Stilts, stilt pilings, boardwalk. Pilings, stilts. Boardwalk this and out of Fintown, Shimshan, Japanese, the echo is empty, small sailboat, a partially viewed number, stern rising out of the mist into sky across the black pines, the surface of tide and horizon above my eyes, I am drinking. Mitsuko, he says. Masato, he says. Masako, he says. Junko, he says. Miyako, he says. Noboru, he says. I am Daniel, and I am your father. I am his second son. In this boat we sail to the wind coming from Haysport, across taste of herring roe on kelp, walking up the salt white boardwalk to you and disappearing into the cinders of a wood fire in the woods. I am string cord tying the wrapped steelhead, my hands with these salt stains, with the writer's ink now. Alone, two hands flapping away, black ravens gone looking for my father. Maybe to the Charlottes and Sandspit, maybe to Big Falls. Can you hear through the fast black rain clouds across two islands of Essington the sound of a dam? The power is trailing, echo empowering the click of a radio switched on. Silent. No. Teacup, 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 empty, broken, ooh, lip, found the overgrown grass. the emptied heart, switched, on. How fine line a tributary make, and now that you are here, open-palmed, and after your usual traveling, what direction? Where do you think you'll go next? And finally, back to Japan, and this is from Mio in Wakayama Prefecture, where my mother's parents were born and they are buried, and from my trip there. Overcast gray morning. I fill the gray tin metal pan I hold by a long wooden handle to pour water twice over the stone, the second to wash the face of the two-feather family crest. The forecast calls for rain today, most of the rest of this week. Cloudy. I've returned the old broom to its graveyard rack. I've just finished sweeping, whisking, clearing from the family grave spots, the dry dead leaves, twigs, grass, and dirt, all from the surrounding, pushing the leaves all to the side and back. Poetry, or writing at least, I realize, has its main instrument in the broom. I do not see a more meaningful act than that of clearing, sweeping. To get at each little crack, or try, to use fingers if need be to pick out leaves, twigs, even dirt where the broom's strands cannot reach. Nothing is more an act of the present to do right what directly faces, not later, not before. And you try to get all, redo what's missed, but decide at each stroke, felt in the fingers and wrist, when to give up, let it be. We know that it's such a futile thing to do, make perfect, make something we do with our own hands in the moment forever. Even as I sweep, the slightest breeze comes and asks me to retrace or go on, trying to haul in as much of the debris I can without lingering too long. What I do in Mio, Wakayama, learn, experience, or gain inspiration from is not something just of here. It is all an accumulation of being aware or dumbed in Kyoto, at Daisen-in and Shodenji in Kyoto. It is from 13 long years ago when I watched old, bent, seeming frail yet sturdy women sweeping in temple grounds. The winds were blowing. As by hand, they picked out leaves, moving forward into the present, not lingering with hesitation and doubt. The night years passed in another country when I walked near dead parents, strangled and close to death. I was decisive in their advice to head back at that point. It meant to head back into a present that held the future that I have now come to. 13 years since I first came to the graves of my mother's parents, and it is in her, Mitsuko, shining light, that her broom has become my strongest pen to hold in the dazzle of these supermarket flowers I have carried, magenta, pink, scarlet, yellow, and white. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wait.
Thank you so much, Gerry. To quote a line from Roy, "Before you, I stand astonished." Thank you for that beautiful reading. Okay, so, God, what an evening. Thank you, Rhoda, Tina, and Gerry for sharing your work with us, and to everyone here tonight for making space for these words. If you enjoyed tonight's reading, please mark your calendars for the next event in this series on Thursday, October 3rd. That evening, we will be welcoming visiting author Jordan Abel, alongside Tiziana Lamilia and Fanuel Antwi. We look forward to sharing the full invitation with you in the coming weeks. Again, if you enjoyed tonight's free reading, please consider showing your support for the Capilano Review by making a donation or purchasing a year-long magazine subscription. And in fact, as I mentioned before, the Real Materials issue, which Tina read from, is coming out within the next couple days. So now is a great time to subscribe. You will receive it right away. We also have our latest spring 2024 issue for sale at the table, as well as artist prints, tote bags, and other merch. So thanks again, all of you, for being here tonight, and have a wonderful evening.